Good day, family. Much love to you. I've been so full. I've got to get these notes out of me. I need somewhere to put them because energy never dies. It only transforms. And so I need a place to put my notes, right? And that's where you come in. If this is useful, you'll get it. Something needs to be transmuted, okay? And that is color. Talking about grays and the gray area and shadow. Now, we're talking about parallels, the pole, a meter. I hurt my finger. Well, cut it on a glass that broke in the sink a few days ago, so looks pretty messy. Put a tissue on it. Okay, Naga rigged it because I didn't have a Band-Aid. Okay, so on one end of the spectrum, we have the rainbow. Good day, beloved. Talking about perspective. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole, Talk Therapy, Siren Buddha Medicine, and I'm conveying this message that came to me. Got to get rid of it. Getting used to that, and I'm really full of energy, and this needs to be transmuted. So we're talking about messages, and this message being a light code frequency, a perspective that I obtained from nowhere because it all starts with a thought. It just sparked in my mind and pictures. So it was a light code frequency, okay, that's connected. All light code frequencies are connected to color, and all color is connected to your chakras, which connects to the tree of life, etc. And that's the embedding. So this message came to me, and it was about color, right? It was about the gray areas and the grays. It was about tricknology and it being the gray area and the play on words and etymology and ciphering, being able to pull out and extract the deeper meaning of these embedded concepts, right? Okay, so on the one end, in this message, I see the rainbow, right? The rainbow serpent, the rainbow. That part that is full of the information, the light code, being, it just is, and it's there. And depending on what we are as a medium, being something that can record information and perspective, depending on our type and intention, all right, and our where we're coming from, our heart, our mind, our spirit. We retract and perceive that information coming from that light code frequency. Now, the part where it gets tricky or shady, right, is the part that we're subject to in regards to our own indoctrination. Things that we're aware of or not aware of that were programmed into us or not being programmed into us. For instance, the lack of our ability to understand deeper concepts, right, regarding embedding. Excuse me, I've been interrupted again. Okay, so our lack of ability to be able to understand deeper concepts can be a problem and cause a shadow, put a shadow over things, okay? The fear that's been luminescent, it's been looming over a lot of the information from our former places of indoctrination. Don't touch that, don't look at that, without us realizing that they were the initiator of the very thing that they were telling us not to look at, you know, not to look into. For instance, just for example, this is your brain on drugs, and the war on drugs, and just the word drugs in general would make most people want to look away from the subject entirely unless they were in the human service field, right? And you were doing drug prevention therapy or something like that. So if you have credentials, now you have permission to go into that forbidden place and look and illuminate, shine some light on it, on the gray area. Whereas prior to, because of all the negative connotation. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs with Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan. Okay? COINTEL. The gray area, the shadow area didn't know that their intentions weren't good. In the background, there were actually cocaine cowboys running the drugs in and out of the United States and feeding it to the populace in order to obtain money for other private affairs of the elite. Let's just, for lack of better words, okay? I would say the elite now are those who are able to take other people into consideration as they walk through the earth. Anybody can be selfish when they have them and already have the means to. There's nothing elite about that, in my opinion. Okay, so this shadow area is the stuff that we don't know. Okay, like that information. Now, the shadow has many layers to it, just like the rainbow does. There are many degrees and levels to shadow, right? Like on one dimension, color is taking us into the chakra system, into the planetary system, into frequencies, tones, vibration, which on the other end of that spectrum lead to healing, right? It's invigorating thinking about color, frequency, vibration, right? How color can even be attached to your zodiac, and just how we use it to harmonize our chakras, okay? So that's one aspect of the dimensions of color. And each color having a story of its own, whether it's planetary or healing frequencies. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's the embedding, right? For instance, green, planet Vega, green, healing frequency, green, color of love, green, heart chakra, green, Raphael, green, Geb, right? Green, another color that signifies envy. Green, a healing frequency at a 90-degree angle, right? Green, the thing that eats itself, Why is it green? So you have the different dimensions to even one thing, right? And the same way, in regards to shadow, the gray area, we also have many different aspects, okay? It's full spectrum. It's full spectrum, okay? The shadow of it all, in the shadow of it all, okay? There's a lot of things that we don't know. And that's the shadow, that's the gray area. Those are the things that are cast, that can be cast, that can be utilized. That's the place that makes us vulnerable, is the things that we don't know, right? And we take the things that we don't know, we expect that this cradle, right, this society that we live in is going to, at least at one point we thought that it was going to protect those interests. Like, for instance, you need your teeth fixed, and you don't know nothing about dentistry, so you're subject to using the things that were put into your society that you're allotted to. You're going to entrust that your society said that you need dentists. That's what you like. Clean, straight, pretty looking teeth, right? And so us realizing that we want that in our cultures, in our society, we have institutions that will actually train them and hire them in. And because you took up that trade, obviously, that trade is a necessary skill that's allotted, needed in your environment, right? So you're going to entrust that the dentist knows what they're doing. You may not be a jack of all trades and a master of none. You be totally oblivious and innocent to the knowledge about fluorite and what fluorite does to the body, to the mind, to the spirit. That fluorite was used in the atom bomb. That fluorite was used in the Nazi war camps. That fluorite is put in our water, and that it causes infertility, that it scrambles the brain and causes people to feel docile. They use it to keep people calm so they don't start a ruckus, so they can't think straight. It scrambles and also clogs up your third eye. Yes, fluoride. So you're not aware of any of that. You just want your freaking teeth cleaned. You may not be aware. Okay, this is all the gray area. You just obliviously, like a good citizen, wanting to be a shareable wave to the next person next to you. So they don't want to look at anything intrusive, right? Adversive, uncomfortable. And you want that job, and you know that certain things, certain signatures, right? The rainbow of thought has already told you that there's certain frequencies that allot you more if you do certain things than if you don't, okay? Like good girls don't cry and stuff like that, okay? Like real men don't cry and stuff like that. So go to the dentist. That's all you want to know. You're not going to know the gray area. But if you do happen to know the gray area, you're not going to want to go. Because perhaps you're aware of what they've been doing all along. And then you're aware of gang stalking. And then you're aware of human trafficking. You're aware of people who have taken the payoff to help other people keep their mouth shut. So you might not want to go there, knowing that it's not so simple as just a little trip. So that's the gray area, okay? The gray area is all the knowledge and the shady stuff that we don't know about. And it's also the grays, okay? On one dimension of light is the details. And how I was explaining how when we correspond something, we get an inclination. That inclination is a spark, and it's like a mating. It's a corresponding frequency that happens when we conceptualize something, okay? We get it. We mate with that idea. We get it. Good day, beloved. Hey, family. Much love to you and yours. Okay, so that's one end of the enlightenment, right? Being illuminated, right? Getting it. And that's the light part that turns on. That's the aha, yeah, I get it, yeah. And then you want to, like I'm doing right now, you want to share it, right? Then there's the other part that's like, I don't know, man. It's dark. How dark is it? How shady is it? How much do we not know? How much is scrambled? How much is twisted, right? How much is hidden? How much is still in the dark? When it comes to comprehension, what? Tricknology has a playground in places where we don't know, that are elusive to us, and those elusive areas are the gray areas. Us not knowing about the grays and the breakdown of the grays is the shade. It's the shade. The grays use light, use comprehension, use our understanding, our ability to understand deeper embedded concepts. This is the way they can hide in the shadows of our minds. And our lack of comprehension is the gray area. In the same way, you have to accept the embedding, that that's also a symbolism, in the same way that this body, which can be broke down as a fractal, to symbolize the world when you look at chakra system and color, So we're illuminated to that fact, but not illuminated to the fact that the parallel side to that, right, is that just because the sun ain't shining here, don't mean it ain't shining on the other side of the world. What? Just because we don't know about something doesn't mean that someone else doesn't. So they take advantage of us being able to conceptualize the higher concept to begin with. And seeing how that's what our whole freaking world is made of, is consciousness, and consciousness brings reality into focus. Yeah. Our consciousness, our ability to perceive something, brings things into focus. Group consciousness. The agreement, where one or more, also wanting to be helpful. There's a lot of other stuff going on, so I'm going to use less extravagant words. That helps sometimes. Yeah, the shadow. For instance, the shadow. The difference between being enlightened and going crazy when it pertains to this information and being a TI, a targeted individual, which I now know is human trafficking, falls under human trafficking, right? The social security number and the theft of gifts and, you know, a way to corral and it's part of the social engineering, controlling people and the information of people and how people interact with other people, which can change the way that we perceive things. Now, I didn't know this 40 years ago. I didn't know this 30 years ago. I didn't even know 10 years ago exactly. I didn't know that I was part of I was a targeted individual, you know. I thought I was just crazy. I grew up thinking that I was crazy. I didn't know about different spiritual gifts because our culture has us inclined to be indoctrinated to only particular things that are accepted. So I didn't know. That was my shadow self didn't know. And I couldn't accept. I couldn't understand why the things that were available in the light, that were available, that we had to offer, our talents and abilities, our holistic stuff, whatever that we had to offer anybody in our society wasn't working. So, you know, it's like a puzzle. That's the shadow, trying to figure it out, trying to figure it out, trying to figure it out. Like a square trying to fit in a circle, trying to pound the square into a round hole. So I didn't fit. And society that does know what's going on, I didn't say all of them, but there's something in the background that does know what's going on and uses that as a perfect opportunity to take advantage and herd people into the areas where they don't belong at. And so I ended up in an institution on medication thinking that I was crazy and denying our own ancestors, denying my very blood and the fact that I was just made that way, just made to receive messages. We're all made to receive messages on some form or another. But they're trying to shove this circle into a square. And we're not all meant to be exactly the same. But that was the shadow. I didn't know that. They don't teach us that. They teach us that we all stand in line, okay? It's industrialized. If it doesn't fit, it causes a problem, causes discord. And they want a well-oiled machine to assimilate their agenda, which is elusive to us. It's the shadow. Information is what brings enlightenment. And The darkness would be the spaces that would be elusive. Okay? So we have the shadow self going on with aspect in our culture even, where we don't know ourselves. And we don't know ourselves to the point where we don't even know while we were sleeping what those we appointed as leaders, our parental figures, have been doing. Running amok. They caught a disease. They got addicted to power and control. They got addicted to watching us maintain the position of stupidity, ignorance, while they're unable to keep their positions, to hold their positions. And it's our job to realize that they're sick, because you can't really fight fire. That kind of situation with the same situation. That kind of alchemy doesn't work. So you wake up, right? You become enlightened to the fact that there's been this shadow looming over you, and that you've been, something's been taking advantage of you while you were sleeping. And that thing, when you look through information and become more enlightened, you learn, is actually built this machine called Shern. Yeah. It's got a satellite brain reading technology all over the planet while we were sleeping. This is the shadow stuff, right? The gray area. The gray area is the ability where we're even able to make a decision, and by way of universal law, right? Of our very thought, and agreement upon a thought is what creates our reality. Creates the perception of our reality. Okay? It doesn't create our reality. It creates the perception of our reality, because matter is matter. Fire, water, earth, air, and ether are always going to be that, because they're a power, a sacred power, an entity all of their own. But the way that we perceive the reality of that is the gray area, okay? The breakdown of higher concepts, like us being a mini model of a macro concept. What? So these grays have torn their behind, okay? They've been very naughty, and there's consequences for that. Even if you just look at genetically, you know, okay, there's a lot of stuff, light that needs to be shined on the repercussions, you know, the rebound of the repercussions of what's been done to the planet, okay? You're talking endangered species, and looking at the fires and stuff like that have happened, like in California. Looking at the genetic breakdown, looking at our water, you know, how delicate the situation with the fresh water on the planet is. Gray areas. Looking at Admiral Burke and Behold the White Horse, and the center of the earth. Mount Meru. What I'm getting at is there are a lot of areas that are gray, right? Things that we still don't quite understand, you know, to their fullest potential, places that we need to explore, and that would be the shadow area. We don't know what they're doing, because we're just catching up. We're groggy, right? That's what I'm getting at. A reality is about what we're able to perceive. Our understanding of reality is about what we're able to comprehend, what we're able to glean. And if they're in the shadows because of tricknology, because we don't know what they've been doing while we were sleeping, then that's the gray area. And the funny thing about this embedding is, not only is it the gray area, But these people, these beings also happen to be the grays. Yeah. The grays moving back and forth between time, using the shadow area, our lack of comprehension, and their ability to play with words as words create comprehension. And in many ways, we co-sign things that we have no idea what we just did, or the repercussions of it, due to the grammar and glamour of it all, the light code frequencies that we're using, and the way that they interact with our very being, with our carbon state, with our water, which holds in information. You can't help it. It's going to get weird for a second for some of you, okay? I deal with shadow work. Did you know that one of the freakiest things about rape victims is getting upset that they have an orgasm? I learned that about women years ago, that some women that were raped or went through incest would feel guilt and shame because they would have a physical response. And my curiosity struck that how something so horrible could be happening to you, but you still have a physical response. I recently learned that males have their sexual organ where they get excited and it can bring them to orgasm located in their rectum. So if you do that, you know, there's things where men were raped or jail or things like that, that even if they didn't want to, they would have a response, a physical response, and how that would make someone feel. We have physical responses to things, and we're upset because we're unaware of the gray area that that's just the way that we work, okay? So there's people, what I'm getting at is that it's that freaking delicate. Here we are still afraid to talk about the things that we're curious about. As grown people, we still allow ourselves to treat ourselves like children. We're not even allowing ourselves to explore our own vehicles, our own bodies, right? We're still in the gray area about how we work, let alone how this works. Oh, but they've been exploring, baby. They have been exploring. They have not been shy. As you can see, the new laws that are trying to be passed now. You know, having sex with animals and pedophilia. You know, this little boy love club. So there's people that are not shy. They're not shy about who they are. But we as children who have been elusive, this is all this crazy stuff has been elusive. When we're told to keep it elusive by our designated programmers that we paid into, we paid for this shiny-ish, while we were sleeping and looking at the shiny stuff that they dangled in front of us and told us that it was the good stuff, right? Come and get it! Come and get it! Get what? Don't worry about it, just eat it! Okay, Mom. Okay, Dad. Uncle Sam said what? Be all that you can be. Well, what am I? You're whatever we tell you to be. Because we're giving you a paycheck. Okay? Okay. Until they're killing everything that you love. Everything. They said be, that's the gray area. We didn't realize they meant be all you could be within the confines of their interpretation of you. And what is that? That's the gray area. Oh, that's the sheeple for the steeple. That's where the Vatican comes in, and the CERN, and the mind-reading brain satellite freaking computer, and Area 51. All the disclosure that how even our present president, right, on The Simpsons, and equate that to Back to the Future and the hoverboard and how fast technology is going right now. Okay? So the gray area, look at the embedding with the words. So while we were sleeping, we didn't even realize how embedded our words are. Our words are worlds. They are as energetic, as alive and energetic as the healing frequencies that can come from the words that build our worlds can be. Like saying things like love and using the color green, and saying things like love and being able to equate that to the plants that sustain our very life being an act of love that's overlooked many times, the gray area. The gray area that it seems the grays be trying to kill. Yeah. And all that too connected to the cloning and the underground cities and all this other stuff going on while we were sleeping, the gray areas, where others have been trying to inform us about what's going on. You know, we have a lot of whistleblowers and stuff like that shedding light on those areas that we had darkness previously. And even to the point where the word black and dark are two different freaking things. Dark is different than black. You can be black all day. I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud. But being dark is something we need to shed a light on. There's a lot of light on freaking dark people. And the grays are that shadow that have been moving across the earth using technology while we were sleeping. And now that we're groggy, we're waking up. We're catching on to the technology. Remember the Matrix and the Terminator. And the other part of this message is that us being that straw man, check out the straw man. Who owns, now that America's money is in jeopardy, economy is in jeopardy, if we were already owned and the proceeds of banknotes, right? Promissory notes. Who owns us now? Why they just obviously didn't care to begin with. You can shed a light on that by looking at the present state of our situation. Okay? And you look at the technology that's being used right now. Look at what's happening to California. They say some of that is just, they say that China owns California, and that some of that is just, they're moving them. Okay? It's not even terra farming. That's moving a whole freaking state. So the American dream that people bought into for generations there, wiped away by somebody else's notion to pay back what? When and why? It's the gray area. It's the shadow. I don't know. Not sure. But it's something that we should look into. Things aren't always what they seem. And things are privy to change. Subject to change. That's what makes it the gray area. We are like a video game now. That's what I was getting at, been wanting to get at. And this vision. That was the karma. this is a whole separate vision, right? I got to go into. In this vision, America was hit hard in war. Payback for all the suffering that was caused by people who used America. But because of this time machine, in doing this, it caused a catastrophe across the entire world. And so the people that initiated the payback didn't realize the repercussions that it would cause across the globe in this vision. So what happened was they sent teams to go back in time and actually change things. The research and the technology already had displayed from this time that we have quantum layers to time. What? Different perspectives and how reality. They knew how to do this stuff, and they knew the breakdown. They knew all the mathematics and all that stuff. Had the equipment and the means to be able to do the protocol, hence CERN, right? And the satellite brain reading technology, yada, yada, yada. All that stuff is set up and in place. You have a multiverse on a quantum level with embedding. The embedding is never leaving in order to be able to move. That is the corresponding frequency is the embedding. And the words are the world, which make up the world. And this vision. What happened was they made America a video game. Yeah. The CERN, the chemtrails, and the nanobots. Have robotized Americans and are able to be controlled for those labels and corporate that have invested. See, because the rest of the world still wants to wear blue jeans, right? And we're using it as an icon. And so basically, the agenda of Americans as an icon was using the rest of the world as a toilet to sell their nasty little products so they can get really fat and big. And all the movies and music and stuff like that, showing off and stuff like that, it's on a large scale of things, it's lucrative. Okay, it's still lucrative. But there needs to be an exchange for the pain, right? And suffering. There needs to be a payback. So what happened was, instead of the nuclear war where everything is totally destroyed, on another dimension, unbeknownst to us, were video games. Nothing but characters, actually, really are. The brain satellite reading technology, the puppeteering that can happen with the with all the new technology has made us kind of like the Matrix movie. Not aware as far as the concept being energy, like a battery. When you look at talents and abilities, being able to turn in ideas, it all starts with a thought, turning and being the thing that turns into currency, which makes societies, which floats how we see each other and how we build our future, right? What we invest in. What we know, what we don't know, is the difference between our ignorance and our enlightenment. The gray area and knowledge. Yeah, so it's not enough to know and just complain about what's going on. But it's the accountability, because we can't do what's already been done because they're not capable of doing any different. And that's why we are where we are. This time change thing also explains to me, well, like, we've always been on another, time is not time anyway. Even when you look at right now, what it's about 1:30 here, but on another part of the world, time is something entirely different. And then you add in a body clock, you know, and you add in magnetics, right? Magnetism, and you know, the force field that goes around the planet and the force field that we have around ourselves, and you wonder, hey, what's going on there? You know? And that just leads you to more enlightenment, to shed light on the sound wave and how sound, right, is part of what happens to a light code frequency when you retrieve it. First it's light, and then in order to convey it back to someone, you need sound. Even if I say, that's portraying a message using sound. If I say, ow, 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 that's a frequency portraying a sound. Then we have a sound wave that's attached to emotion. From the ow that I hate dimension to the ow that I love dimension. Two ends of a pole on one color. One little teeny tiny thing. And we're a combination of these different embedded codes that lead to the multiverse of understanding and being, right? So these grays are interdimensional. They understand the things that we're just catching up to in regards to time and travel. And it's all tied together because our comprehension, our group, the group perspective is what holds. It's the magnet, it's what holds it all together, right? If I say banana and you don't know what a banana is, then I'm oblivious, okay? So that's why the language is so important, and even not just the language, but what we call a particular thing. This is a bell. A bell is a bell. Still means no matter where you are, when you add in that that's why you can go certain places and not understand the language and look at their eyes and the body language, and they can do like this and do some other things, and it would still end up where you'd feel safe, you'd feel okay because of the frequency. But this gray area, this space of not knowing, this space of tricknology, this space of exploitation is not good for us. And that's why it's been great, is because that's the space where the shadow men even do that kind of research, you know, the still witch, the shadow man, you know, and night terrors, the shadow self, the unconscious mind, the part that we are unable to comprehend, the shadows in the mind, the elusive part. So if the light part can come and manifest and actually create things due to being able to conceptualize them, and it all starts with a thought, I heard you thinking. You already know. Then the opposite is also true and available. Okay? If you can conceptualize, if love can manifest itself through an orgasmic experience and create a child, that's a combination of you and the person that you were with. And that's how powerful the concept, the feeling of love is. And even applying a word to it, a mi amor, a belle, chabella, a beautiful, attaching these words to emotions is a manifestation. Then the opposite is true. That shadow. Notice the secret societies and all the stuff that we don't know, you know, but we still get disclosure, and that disclosure is only to be able to touch, like wind blowing through your ear, touch the crevices of your unconscious mind, the embedding that's in there somewhere. What did they say? We only use how much of our brains? Junk DNA what? They said that God don't make junk though. The Creator don't make junk. It creates with us who are oblivious or in the shadow, in the dark, about what the freak it is for. Right? But while we were groggy, while we were sleeping, while we were learning, you betcha, somebody else was turning that inside out because their very lives depended on it. Right? Having all this on lockdown and controlling it depended on it. I don't think Tony Montana was trying to give up his place. You want to mess with me? First you get the money, and then you get the world. Scarface. Okay. Now, yeah, some people have been very, very naughty, very, very ugly. Yeah. Well, us babies are sleeping. But now that we're here, thank goodness. So the Greys are us. We are the Greys. They have been taking, you know, and that's where this part was the vision that I was naming. And that's the part that was able to add into the other parts of research, you know, with the seas and, you know, a lot of the things that are going on the planet. So there's a collaboration and stuff like that in this vision going on with other governments on the planet in order to still utilize the logos and logos of corporate America, of America. And so it'll be different, and it's about to get real crazy, but it, you know, it's a multiverse. The shifting of wheats and tares. There's a lot of stuff that's being revealed right now that's going down. In regards to revelations and demonic presences and the use of energy in the quantum field and it all circulates at Shern. We've come full circle. Talking about the Greys and dark matter and light. So that's the pole, basically. On one hand, you have the rainbow, right, and light. And on the other hand, you have the shadow self. And there's a lot of embedding in regards to whether it's we don't know ourselves or whether we don't know ourselves as a society and what we've been up to, what we refuse to see in ourselves, who we are, or what we don't want others to see. And the same thing goes for us as a society. Hence, with the embedding, right, the fractality is that we also have the same message in regards to the world. Okay? And in regards to the consciousness field, as we learn we change the entire grid, the metabolic field of the entire planet. It's magnetized to this, who we are and how we're evolving. So changing the frequency, shouldn't be something that's left in the shadows, in the gray area of comprehension, for us to bring it into the forefront so we can turn it full circle. We can flip it and take a look at the different aspects of it. That brings us online. Puts us back in the game of the perspective of enlightenment and out of the area, the gray area, where we're elusive and don't understand what's going on. Locks the consciousness, flashlight, in on what are you doing? We get eyes, hearts, and ears turn on spiritually, morally, physically, as a group. We co-sign and decide in this direction to shed some light on this shadow. Okay, so that's what came through on that. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. This is Siren Buddha Medicine. Much love to you and yours. This was Talk Therapy, and I'm out. Thanks for being. Just being.